Welcome to Japanese Sleep Whispers, your sanctuary for peaceful nights and gentle dreams. Here, you will find calming bedtime stories inspired by the timeless beauty and traditions of Japan. Each story is read slowly in a soothing voice, accompanied by natural sounds such as flowing rivers and the tranquil rhythm of shishi-odoshi. Whether you seek relaxation, relief from stress, or help falling asleep, these tales invite you to drift away into a world of serenity. Imagine quiet temples, moonlit gardens, and the whispering bamboo forests as you listen. If you'd like these soothing stories to be part of your nightly routine, consider subscribing so they're always with you when you need them. Subscribe and let these stories be your nightly ritual of calm and rest. Thank you for being here. May you always find peace in every moment. Silent Snow on the Torii Gate. Prologue. Silent snow on the Torii Gate. Snow began to fall long before anyone noticed it. It fell without sound, without urgency, as if the sky itself had chosen silence as its final language. Each snowflake drifted downward in its own time, turning slowly, dissolving the distance between heaven and earth. There was no wind, no footsteps, no voices. Only the quiet descent of white upon white. At the edge of the mountain village stood an old torii gate. Its pillars were made of dark, weathered wood, softened by decades of rain, sun, and snow. The red paint that once marked it as vivid and sacred had faded into muted tones, somewhere between rust and memory. Moss clung gently to its base, and thin cracks traced stories along its surface, stories of years passing, of people coming and going, of prayers whispered and forgotten. Tonight, the torii gate stood alone. The path beneath it, once pressed smooth by countless feet, was now hidden beneath fresh snow. Stone lanterns lined the way beyond the gate, their shapes softened, their edges blurred as if the world itself were exhaling. None of the lanterns was lit. They did not need to be. Moonlight rested quietly on the snow, enough to reveal without demanding attention. Snow gathered on the crossbeam of the torii gate. It did not fall all at once. It rested there, gently accumulating, as though the gate were being crowned by winter itself. The snow made no sound as it landed. It simply arrived and stayed. Time moved differently here. In the village below, clocks still ticked, fires still burned, and dreams still wandered behind closed eyes. But at the torii gate, time slowed to a near stop. Moments stretched, then dissolved. The past and present felt close enough to touch. Long ago, Travelers had paused beneath this gate. They bowed before passing through, some with intention, others out of habit. Some carried hope, some sorrow, some questions they could not name. A few had turned back before entering, unsure of what they were seeking. The gate remembered all of them, not as faces or names, but as warm, faint impressions lingering in the wood. Now, there was no one. Only snow. Only silence. Only the Torii gate stood patiently between worlds, as it had always done. Allowing the living to pass, allowing spirits to linger, allowing winter to speak in its quiet, endless language. And somewhere beyond the gate, beyond the snow-covered path and the darkened lanterns, something waited. Not with urgency, not with desire, but with the calm certainty that, sooner or later, someone would arrive. Chapter 1: The Path Beneath the Snow. Morning did not arrive suddenly. Light seeped into the mountains slowly, filtered through thick clouds that held the last traces of snowfall. The sky remained pale, neither fully awake nor fully asleep, as if unsure whether it wished to continue the night's stillness or surrender today. The forest surrounding the shrine lay hushed. Tall cedar trees stood like silent guardians, their branches heavy with snow. When a small clump slipped free and fell to the ground, it did so without sound, dissolving into the soft white blanket below. The air was cold but gentle, carrying the faint scent of pine and distant smoke from the village far below. A narrow road wound its way upward through the forest. It was barely more than a suggestion beneath the snow, marked only by the subtle rise and fall of the ground. No footprints disturbed its surface yet. It seemed untouched, as though waiting for the first sign of life to acknowledge its existence. That sign came slowly. A lone figure moved along the path. He walked with unhurried steps, careful not to break the quiet more than necessary. His coat was dark, absorbing the pale light around him, and a scarf was wrapped loosely at his neck. Each breath formed a small cloud that lingered for a moment before fading back into the cold. He had been walking since before dawn. Not because he was in a hurry, but because something within him had stirred him awake long before the sun considered rising. It was not a dream that called him from sleep, nor a sound, nor a thought he could clearly remember. It was simply a sense of being drawn gently, persistently toward the mountain. He did not question it. The village he had left behind still slept. Wooden houses rested beneath snow-covered roofs, windows dark, doors closed. Somewhere a dog had stirred, but even that sound had quickly faded. He had moved quietly through the narrow streets, his footsteps absorbed by snow, leaving no trail that would last. Now, as he climbed higher, the village felt distant. Not far in distance, but far in feeling. The forest accepted him without comment. Branches did not sway. Birds did not scatter. The path did not resist his steps. It was as if the mountain already knew him, or perhaps had been waiting for anyone at all. As he walked, memories surfaced not sharply, but like reflections beneath still water. He remembered visiting a shrine like this once, long ago. Or perhaps it was many times. The memory lacked detail, only the sensation of standing beneath a torii gate, of bowing. Without fully understanding why, of feeling something settle quietly in his chest afterward. At the time, he had not lingered. Life had pulled him onward, as it always did. Now, with snow cushioning every sound and the world narrowed to breath and step, those memories felt closer. Not clearer, but nearer, as though they were walking alongside him. The path curved gently. Ahead, through the trees, a dark shape began to take form. The torii gate. It stood exactly as it had the night before, though the man did not know that. Snow rested on its crossbeam, undisturbed. The pillars emerged from the white ground like old roots, steady and patient. There was no sign to announce it, no boundary except the feeling that the air itself shifted upon approach. He slowed without realizing it. Something about the gate encouraged a pause. He stopped a few steps before it, standing quietly, letting his breath even out. The forest remained silent, as if acknowledging the moment. Snowflakes still drifted down, though now only a few, wandering without pattern. For a long time, he did nothing. Then, almost unconsciously, he bowed. It was not deep, nor formal. It was simply a small lowering of the head, a gesture that felt older than thought. When he straightened, the world felt subtly different, not changed, but aligned, as if something had settled into place. He stepped forward and passed beneath the torii gate. Beyond it, the path continued upward, leading toward the shrine buildings hidden deeper within the forest. Stone lanterns flanked the way, their surfaces dusted with snow. He could imagine them lit at night, small flames resisting the dark, but now they rested unlit, content to simply exist. With each step, the quiet deepened. His thoughts slowed, stretching out, losing their sharp edges. Concerns that had once felt heavy, unfinished work, unanswered messages. Decisions waiting to be made grew distant, as though they belonged to another person entirely. He was aware only of movement. Step, breath, step. Time loosened its grip. He could not say how long he walked. Minutes felt like moments, moments like minutes. Eventually, the trees opened into a small clearing, and the shrine revealed itself. It was modest in size. Wooden buildings with sloping roofs stood nestled among the trees, their lines softened by snow. A faint smell of old wood and cold stone filled the air. Everything appeared still, as though the shrine itself were resting. No caretaker greeted him. No bell rang. No door opened. And yet, the place did not feel empty. He stood at the edge of the clearing, uncertain whether to step forward or simply remain where he was. A sense of calm settled over him, not the calm of answers found, but the calm of questions no longer demanding to be asked. Snow continued to fall. Somewhere in the forest, unseen and unheard, the mountain listened. And the torii gate behind him stood quietly, bearing the weight of snow and memory, marking the place where one world softened into another. Chapter 2: The Shrine That Breathes. The clearing held its breath. Snow lay evenly across the ground, unbroken except for the faint impressions of his steps. The shrine building stood in quiet balance with the forest, neither imposing nor retreating, as if they had grown there naturally over time. The wood was darkened by age, its surface textured with years of rain, frost, and sun. Here and there, thin lines of ice traced along the edges of the roofs, catching what little light filtered through the clouds. He stepped forward slowly. Each movement felt deliberate, though he had not decided to move at all. His body seemed to understand the rhythm of the place better than his thoughts did. The crunch of snow beneath his boots was soft, immediately swallowed by the stillness. At the center of the clearing stood the main hall. Its doors were closed, but not sealed. A faint gap remained between the wooden panels, just enough to suggest that opening them was possible, that it had always been possible. A thick rope hung above the entrance, its fibers stiff with cold, a bell resting silently at its end. He stopped a few paces away. There was no instruction posted, no sign explaining what one should do. And yet, he felt the presence of countless others who had stood exactly where he stood now. He could not see them, but he sensed the echo of their pauses, their hesitations, their quiet hopes. He did not ring the bell. Instead, he simply stood there, hands at his sides, breathing. The air felt different here. It was colder, yet somehow softer, as though it carried depth rather than sharpness. When he inhaled, the breath seemed to reach deeper into him than usual, settling somewhere below thought. A memory surfaced. He saw himself as a child, though the image was blurred at the edges. Snow again. A smaller shrine. An adult standing nearby, perhaps a parent, perhaps someone else guiding him forward. He remembered the feel of cold air on his face, the smell of wood, the faint sound of a bell ringing once, then fading. The memory did not explain itself. It did not insist on meaning. It simply existed. He exhaled, and the image drifted away. For a while, he remained where he was, letting time pass without measuring it. Snowflakes landed on his shoulders, his sleeves, melting slowly from the warmth beneath the fabric. He did not brush them away. Eventually, he became aware of a subtle sensation. Not a sound, not a movement, a presence. It was not behind him, nor before him, nor within the shrine hall itself. It felt more like the awareness of being noticed, not watched, but acknowledged. As if the shrine, the forest, and the mountain had collectively recognized his arrival and found it acceptable. The sensation brought no fear, only a deepening of quiet. He turned slightly, looking around the clearing. The stone lanterns stood evenly spaced, their tops capped with snow. One of them bore a faint crack along its side, filled with ice. Another leaned just slightly, corrected long ago by careful hands. Everything bore the marks of time, and yet nothing felt neglected. He walked toward the lanterns, his steps unhurried. As he passed, his fingers brushed the cold stone. The surface was rough, familiar in a way he could not place. The touch grounded him, anchoring him in the moment. Beyond the lanterns, a narrow path led behind the main hall. It was less traveled, partially obscured by snow and fallen branches. The trees there grew closer together, their trunks dark and straight. Something about the path drew his attention, not insistently, but patiently. He followed it. The path curved gently, descending only slightly before leveling out. Snow covered everything evenly, but beneath it, he sensed stone steps worn smooth by years of use. He adjusted his pace, letting his feet find their way without looking down. The forest grew denser. Light dimmed, though not enough to feel oppressive. It was the kind of dimness that encouraged introspection, that softened the boundary between thought and sensation. He became aware of his heartbeat. Steady, unremarkable, present. With each step, his awareness narrowed further, until there was little left but movement and breath. Thoughts arose, then dissolved before forming words. Time became an abstract concept, irrelevant and distant. Then he saw it. A small auxiliary shrine stood tucked between the trees. It was barely taller than him, its roof low, its structure simple. Snow rested thickly upon it, undisturbed. There were no offerings placed before it, no fresh tracks leading up to it. It felt forgotten, yet not abandoned. He stopped several steps away. This place felt older than the main shrine. Not in years, necessarily, but in intention. As though it had been built not for gatherings or ceremonies, but for something quieter. Something more personal. The presence he had felt earlier seemed closer here. Still gentle. Still calm. He lowered himself onto one knee, more out of instinct than choice. The snow soaked through his trousers, cold pressing against his skin, but he did not mind. The discomfort anchored him further, reminding him that he was fully awake, fully present. He closed his eyes. In the darkness behind his eyelids, images drifted past, not scenes, but sensations. The weight of snow-laden silence. The sound of wind moving through trees. The feeling of standing at a threshold, unsure whether to cross. A question formed, but it had no words. It was not, "Why am I here?" It was something softer. Something like, "Is it all right to stay?" The answer did not arrive as sound or thought. It arrived as warmth. Subtle, spreading slowly through his chest, easing a tension he had not realized he carried. His breathing deepened, lengthened. The forest seemed to lean closer, not intruding, simply sharing the same stillness. When he opened his eyes, the auxiliary shrine looked unchanged. And yet, he felt changed. Not dramatically, not completely, just enough. Snow continued to fall, light and steady, covering his knee where it touched the ground, softening the mark of his presence. It would not remain for long after he stood. Nothing here demanded permanence. He rose slowly, brushing snow from his clothes. Before turning away, he bowed once, deeply this time. The gesture felt complete, even without knowing why. As he stepped back onto the path, the presence receded, not disappearing, but returning to a quiet distance, like a tide pulling gently away from shore. Behind him, the small shrine remained nestled among the trees, breathing softly with the forest. Ahead, the path led back toward the clearing, toward the main hall, toward the torii gate beyond. And though he did not yet know it, something within him had begun to remember how to be still. Chapter 3. When time loosens its hold. The clearing welcomed him back without comment. Snow had continued to fall while he was gone, softening the faint traces of his earlier steps. The main hall stood exactly as before, its presence steady and unassuming. Nothing indicated that time had passed at all, and yet he sensed that it had gently, like a tide that had shifted without drawing attention to itself. He stood at the edge of the clearing for a moment. The air felt warmer now, though the temperature had not changed. It was the warmth of familiarity, of having been accepted by a place that asked nothing in return. He adjusted his scarf, more out of habit than necessity, and let his gaze wander. Near the main hall, a low wooden bench sat partially buried in snow. It had likely been placed there for visitors who wished to rest, though it looked as though it had not been used in some time. Snow coated its surface evenly, untouched, patient. He approached the bench and brushed the snow away with slow, careful movements. The wood beneath was dark and smooth, worn by years of quiet use. He sat down, feeling the cold seep through his coat, grounding him once again. From here, he could see the torii gate in the distance, framed by trees. It appeared smaller now, further away, as though he had crossed more than just physical space when he passed beneath it. The path between them was barely visible beneath the snow, but he knew it was there. He could feel it, like a line drawn through memory. He leaned back slightly and closed his eyes. At first, there was only darkness and breath. Then, slowly, sounds began to surface. Not new sounds, but ones he had not noticed before. The faint creak of wood as the shrine adjusted to the cold. The distant whisper of wind moving high among the branches. The soft, irregular rhythm of snow slipping from leaf to ground. These sounds did not interrupt the silence. They belonged to it. His thoughts drifted. He thought of rooms he had lived in, some long forgotten. Of mornings when light filtered through curtains in much the same way it filtered through branches now. Of nights spent awake, listening for something he could never quite name. Here, that restless listening faded. Time did not press forward. It spread outward, becoming wide enough to rest within. A sensation stirred, not unpleasant, but curious. He became aware of the years he carried. Not as numbers or milestones, but as layers. Each year resting gently atop the last, like snow accumulating without weight. None of them felt urgent. None demanded attention. For the first time in a long while, he did not feel pulled toward what came next. He opened his eyes. The clearing remained unchanged, yet it felt closer, as though the distance between him and the world had narrowed. The shrine was no longer something he observed, it was something he shared space with. Across the clearing, near the main hall, he noticed something he had not before. A small wooden offering box sat slightly to one side, its surface mostly hidden beneath snow. A few coins glinted faintly where the snow had thinned. The box looked old, its edges rounded, its lid bearing faint carvings worn nearly smooth. He stood and approached it. There was no expectation that he would place anything inside. No sense of obligation. Still, he reached into his pocket and found a single coin. It felt colder than he expected, as though it had been waiting. He held it for a moment. Memories rose again, uninvited but gentle. The feeling of being younger, of holding something small and important in his hand. The quiet seriousness of the gesture, even when its meaning was not fully understood. He placed the coin into the offering box. The sound was soft, almost swallowed by the snow. It did not echo. He bowed once more. This time, the bow felt lighter, less formal. It was not a request, nor a thanks. It was simply an acknowledgement of being present. As he straightened, a subtle shift occurred. The air seemed to deepen, as though the space itself had inhaled. The presence he had sensed earlier returned, not closer, not stronger, but clearer. It did not take shape. It did not speak. It simply was. He did not try to understand it. Understanding felt unnecessary. Instead, he allowed himself to stand there, suspended between moments, until the sensation faded naturally, as breath released. Eventually, he returned to the bench. He sat again, folding his hands loosely in his lap. Snow settled on his shoulders, unnoticed. His breathing slowed further, falling into a rhythm that matched the quiet around him. Images drifted through his mind. The Torii Gate at night, snow gathering silently on its crossbeam. The path beneath the trees, hidden yet certain. The small auxiliary shrine, breathing softly in the forest. These images did not connect into a story. They did not need to. They existed as fragments of stillness, complete in themselves. He felt a drowsiness settle in. Not the heaviness of exhaustion, but the gentle pull of rest. His eyelids grew heavy, though he did not fight the sensation. There was no urgency to remain alert. No fear of missing something. Here, even sleep felt like participation. As his eyes closed, time loosened its hold completely. Minutes passed, or hours, or perhaps only moments. The shrine remained. The forest remained. Snow continued to fall, marking and unmarking the world with equal care. And beneath the quiet watch of the mountain, he rested, held not by sleep alone, but by the profound permission to simply be. Chapter 4 Between Sleep and Snow. He was not certain when sleep arrived. There was no clear moment of surrender, no sharp crossing from wakefulness into dreams. One instant, he was aware of the bench beneath him, the weight of his body resting against old wood, the cool air brushing his cheeks. The next, awareness softened, thinning like mist under morning light. Snow continued to fall. He sensed it more than he heard it, the way one senses the passing of time without counting it. Each snowflake seemed to mark a moment, yet none demanded remembrance. They landed on his coat, his hair, his closed eyelids, and melted slowly, as if even the cold had learned patience here. In this in-between state, thoughts drifted freely. They did not form sentences. They did not insist on meaning. They appeared as impressions: light, texture, warmth, distance. He felt himself walking again, though his body remained still. He felt the sensation of passing beneath the Torii gate once more, not as an action, but as a feeling of transition. The gate was taller now. Or perhaps he was smaller. Snow gathered along its crossbeam, thicker than before, bending slightly under its own quiet weight. The red of the wood was deeper, richer, as though time itself had restored its color. Lanterns beyond the gate glowed faintly, their light diffused by falling snow. He moved forward, though his feet did not touch the ground. The path responded to him, smoothing itself beneath his passage. Trees leaned inward, their branches forming a loose arch overhead. The forest felt attentive, but not watchful, more like a listener who had heard the story many times and still welcomed its retelling. He sensed others here, not figures, not faces. Presences. They moved alongside him, some ahead, some behind. Each carried its own quiet weight, its own unfinished stillness. None reached out. None spoke. They simply shared the same direction, the same unhurried pace. The path widened into the clearing. The shrine stood brighter now, not illuminated by any visible source, but gently defined against the snow. Its edges were clearer, its form more certain, as though it had emerged more fully into awareness. He felt drawn toward the main hall. The doors, once closed, now stood slightly open. Warmth spilled from the narrow gap, not heat, but something softer. The warmth of breath in winter. The warmth of memory recalled without pain. He approached. As he reached the threshold, he hesitated. A familiar sensation returned, the feeling of standing between worlds, unsure whether to cross. The same feeling he had known as a child, the same feeling that had followed him quietly through life, appearing at moments of change, then fading again. This time, there was no pressure to decide. The shrine did not demand entry. It simply allowed the possibility. He remained where he was, content to linger at the edge. Snow fell around him, untouched by gravity, hanging briefly in the air before continuing its descent. The world felt suspended, balanced perfectly between movement and rest. A sound emerged, not from outside, but from within the shrine. It was faint at first, barely more than a vibration. Slowly, it resolved into rhythm. A low, steady cadence, like breath measured over centuries. Not a heartbeat, but something adjacent to it. The sound did not invite fear. It invited listening. As he listened, something within him responded. His own breathing aligned subtly with the rhythm. Inhale, exhale. The boundaries of his body softened. He could no longer tell where he ended and the quiet began. Images surfaced. A pair of hands tying a rope at a shrine. Footsteps echoing softly on stone. A bell rang once, then was left to sway in silence. These images were not his alone. They belonged to the place. They belonged to everyone who had passed through, paused, bowed, and continued. He felt them move through him, not as memories to be held, but as currents to be felt and released. Gradually, the warmth receded. The sound faded. The shrine dimmed, returning to its earlier, gentler presence. Snow resumed its steady fall, obeying gravity once more. The presences around him thinned, dissolving into the forest. The path narrowed, guiding him back toward the bench, back toward his resting body. Awareness thickened. Weight returned. Cold pressed softly against his skin. He stirred. His eyes opened slowly, lashes heavy with moisture where snow had melted and refrozen. The clearing looked much the same as before. The main hall stood quiet. The bench supported him patiently. Had he slept? He could not be sure. Time had shifted again, slipping beyond measure. He straightened slightly, adjusting his posture. Snow slid from his shoulders to the ground without sound. His breath emerged in pale clouds, steady and deep. Within him, something had settled. Not an answer. Not a revelation. A permission. The permission to linger. The permission to rest between moments. The permission to let silence speak without translating it. He remained seated, awake now, yet still close to sleep. The boundary between the two felt thin, permeable. He did not rush to cross it. Snow continued to fall. The shrine breathed quietly. And beneath the watching mountain, the space between sleep and waking held him gently, like folded hands cradling something fragile and whole. Chapter 5: The Quiet Shape of Departure. The snow began to thin. It did not stop all at once. The flakes simply grew smaller, lighter, as if the sky were gradually releasing its hold on winter. The clouds above softened, allowing a pale brightness to settle over the clearing. Shadows emerged gently, without sharp edges. He noticed the change not with urgency, but with awareness. Light had shifted. That alone was enough to tell him that time had moved forward again, slowly reclaiming its familiar shape. The shrine remained quiet, unchanged in form, yet subtly different in feeling, as though it had completed a long, steady breath and now rested. He stood. The bench creaked softly in the absence of his weight. Snow slid from its surface, leaving behind darkened wood marked briefly by warmth. The imprint would fade soon. Everything here faded soon. He brushed snow from his coat, his movements unhurried. There was no rush to leave, but there was a sense of completion, like the final note of a song held just long enough before silence returns. He looked toward the main hall one last time. The doors were closed again. Not sealed, not distant. Simply closed, as they had been when he arrived. No sign remained of warmth or sound, yet he did not feel denied. What he had been allowed to experience had already settled within him. He bowed. Deeper than before. Longer. The gesture felt like punctuation rather than a conclusion. Turning away, he followed the path back toward the Torii gate. Snow still covered the ground, but now his footsteps left clearer impressions. Each step pressed him gently back into the world of weight and consequence. Breath clouded before him, visible, real. The stone lanterns watched in quiet alignment as he passed. One by one, they slipped behind him, receding into the forest. The auxiliary shrine remained hidden among the trees, unseen now, but not forgotten. He felt its presence not as something behind him, but as something carried forward. The path curved. Ahead, the Torii gate came into view. It looked unchanged, snow still resting on its crossbeam, the wood dark and patient. And yet, as he approached, he felt the difference clearly. He was approaching it from the inside. This awareness slowed him. He stopped a few steps before the gate, just as he had before entering. The forest around him remained still, attentive in the same quiet way. Snowflakes drifted down, sparse now, each one distinct. He stood there for a long moment. Beyond the gate lay the path down the mountain, the village, the rhythms of daily life waiting to resume. He could almost feel them already, the hum of voices, the weight of tasks, the forward pull of time. None of it felt unwelcome. But neither did he rush toward it. He bowed again, not to the gate itself, but to the space it marked. To the pause it had allowed. To the silence that had asked nothing and offered everything. As he straightened and stepped forward, passing beneath the Torii gate, something subtle shifted. The air changed. The forest behind him softened, its presence receding just enough to let him go. The path ahead felt more defined, more insistent, though still gentle. He did not look back. Not because he was afraid to, but because he did not need to. The shrine was not something that could be left behind by turning away. It had already folded itself into him, quiet and complete. As he descended, the snow thinned further. Patches of dark earth appeared along the path. The sound of his steps grew clearer, less absorbed. Somewhere below, faint signs of life began to emerge, a distant door opening, the low murmur of a voice carried on the air. The village was waking. He adjusted his scarf, feeling its familiar weight. His breath steadied into a rhythm shaped by movement and purpose. Yet beneath it, a deeper rhythm remained, slower and quieter, echoing the breath of the shrine. By the time he reached the edge of the forest, the torii gate was no longer visible. And yet, he could still feel it. Standing, waiting, allowing passage without keeping count. Snow fell once more, briefly, lightly, as if in farewell. Then it stopped. Chapter 6. Snow carried into the day. The village received him quietly. Snow still rested on rooftops and along the edges of narrow streets, but here it had been. Disturbed, compressed by footsteps, marked by sled tracks, softened by warmth rising from within the houses. Smoke drifted lazily from chimneys, dissolving into the pale sky. Life had resumed. A door opened somewhere, then closed. Footsteps passed at a distance. A voice called out briefly, not urgent, not loud. These sounds felt distant yet familiar, like a melody remembered rather than heard. He walked slowly. There was no need to hurry. The road guided him gently downward, easing him back into the shared rhythm of the village. His boots left clear impressions now, each step unmistakably his own. And yet, something within him remained light. The quiet of the shrine had not vanished. It moved with him, subtle and steady, like a second breath beneath the first. Even as the world around him filled with sound and motion, that deeper stillness remained untouched. He passed a small house with a wooden fence. Snow had gathered unevenly along its rails, some of it already melting into dark streaks. He paused without realizing why and rested his hand lightly on the fence. The wood was cold, but not unkind. It reminded him of the stone lanterns, of the bench, of the shrine's doors. Ordinary things felt closer now. Textures mattered. Weight mattered. Presence mattered. He continued. At the edge of the village, a narrow stream flowed beneath a thin layer of ice. Water moved quietly beneath the surface, unseen yet certain. He stopped to watch it for a while, following the slow drift of bubbles beneath the ice. The sight felt familiar. Movement without urgency. Change without noise. He realized then that the shrine had not taught him anything new. It had simply reminded him of something he already knew, something that had been waiting patiently beneath the surface of his days. He straightened and turned away from the stream. The village opened before him, rows of houses, paths branching outward, lives unfolding in parallel. Somewhere, a kettle began to whistle. Somewhere else, laughter flickered briefly, then settled. He felt no separation from it. No need to hold himself apart. As he walked, moments from the shrine returned not as images, but as sensations that surfaced unexpectedly. The warmth that had spread through his chest. The rhythm that had matched his breath. The permission to linger. These sensations appeared and faded, leaving no trace behind, yet shaping the way he moved. He reached the place where he was staying. The door slid open with a familiar sound. Warm air met him, carrying the scent of wood and tea. He removed his coat and scarf, shaking off the last traces of snow. They fell to the floor, melting quietly, disappearing. Inside, time felt different again. Not rushed, not suspended, balanced. He sat near the window and looked out. Snow still clung to the trees at the edge of the village. Beyond them, the mountain rose, its upper slopes hidden by cloud. He knew the shrine was there, though he could not see it. The knowledge felt enough. He closed his eyes briefly. Breathe in, breathe out. The rhythm remained. When he opened them again, nothing had changed. And yet, everything felt subtly aligned, as though the world and his place within it had found a quieter agreement. Outside, snow began to fall once more. Not heavily, not urgently, just enough to remind the ground, the trees, the roofs and him that silence was never far away. Chapter 7: The Gate That Does Not Close. Days passed. They did not announce themselves. One morning softened into the next, marked only by small changes: the thinning of snow along the eaves, the gradual return of color to the trees, the lengthening of light in the late afternoon. The village moved forward at its own unremarkable pace. He moved with it. Each day, he rose, ate, walked, and rested. There were conversations, brief and ordinary. There were tasks to complete, simple and necessary. Nothing felt altered on the surface. Nothing demanded explanation. And yet, beneath it all, something remained open. It was not a thought he carried. It was not a memory he revisited. It was more like a doorway left ajar somewhere within him, allowing air to pass through freely. He noticed it most clearly in moments of Pause when waiting for water to boil, when standing at a crossroads, when listening to snow melt from the branches outside his window. The shrine returned to him in these pauses. Not as an image, but as a feeling of alignment. A quiet confirmation that stillness was not something reserved for mountains and forests alone. It could exist here, in the midst of ordinary time. One evening, as dusk settled gently over the village, he stepped outside. Snow had begun to fall again, light and sparse. Lanterns flickered to life along the street, their glow diffused by the drifting flakes. The air was cold but calm, carrying the faint scent of smoke and earth. He walked without a destination. The path led him past familiar houses, past the stream, past the edge of the fields now resting beneath winter's cover. Each step felt complete in itself, needing no continuation. As he walked, he became aware of a subtle sensation. The same one he had felt at the shrine. The sense of being acknowledged. It did not come from any one place. It arose naturally, as if the world itself had learned a gentler way of noticing those who moved through it without hurry. He paused. Snow landed on his sleeves, his hair, his eyelashes. He did not brush it away. He let it melt, then disappear, leaving no trace. For a moment, he imagined the Torii Gate. Not as it stood on the mountain, but as a shape without form. A boundary that existed not to separate, but to soften. A reminder that the passage did not require force, only awareness. He realized then that he did not need to return to the shrine. Not because the experience was complete, nor because it had lost its meaning. But because the gate it represented had never closed. It had simply changed location. It stood now within him. Every time he slowed, every time he listened, every time he allowed silence to exist without filling it. The thought did not bring satisfaction or pride. It brought ease. Snow continued to fall. The village breathed. Time moved forward, but gently, like water flowing beneath ice. He resumed walking, his steps quiet, his breath steady. The lantern light followed him for a while, then fell behind. Ahead, the street curved, leading him onward into the evening. Somewhere far above, beyond sight and sound, the shrine rested beneath the trees. Snow gathered on its roofs. Silence settled on its paths. The Torii Gate stood patient, unchanged, welcoming those who would arrive. And releasing those who would leave without keeping count, without closing itself to either. And whether or not he ever returned there in body, he knew now that the passage remained. Always open, always quiet, always waiting. Chapter 8 Snow without footprints. Night settled softly. It did not arrive as darkness, but as a deepening of quiet. The village lights dimmed one by one, windows growing still behind drawn curtains. Sounds thinned until only the faintest traces remained: the distant murmur of water, the occasional creak of wood adjusting to cold. He lay awake for a time. The room was warm, the futon beneath him familiar. Outside, snow fell again, barely audible as it brushed against the roof and window. Each flake arrived without announcement, rested briefly, then vanished. His breathing slowed, not intentionally, not deliberately. It followed the rhythm it had learned on the mountain, the rhythm that required no effort to maintain. Images drifted through his mind, unshaped and gentle. A torii gate standing beneath snow. A path that appeared only when walked. Lantern light softened by falling white. These images did not connect to the narrative. They did not ask to be remembered. They floated, then dissolved, leaving behind a sense of space wide enough to rest in. He felt the day loosen its hold. The small movements, the quiet conversations, the passing hours, all of it settled into place without friction. Nothing needed to be reviewed. Nothing needed correction. Outside, the mountain remained unseen. Snow gathered in its forests. The shrine rested. The torii gate stood as it always had, marking nothing, offering everything. And yet, the gate was no longer distant. It existed in the pause between breaths. In the moment before sleep fully arrived. In the gentle awareness that nothing more was required. His thoughts grew fewer. Each one rose more slowly, then faded before fully forming. The boundary between waking and sleep softened again, familiar and welcoming. He did not resist it. There was no fear in letting go. Snow continued to fall, covering paths, smoothing edges, erasing the need to choose a direction. By morning, there would be no footprints, no sign of where anyone had passed. And that felt right. As sleep finally took him, the last sensation he felt was not the absence of thought, but the presence of quiet, deep, complete, and kind. A quiet that did not end. A quiet that waited. Epilogue: silent snow on the torii gate. Snow fell through the night. On the mountain, it gathered gently on the torii gate's crossbeam, just as it always had. The forest remained still. The shrine breathed softly, unseen and undisturbed. No footsteps marked the path. No voices crossed the gate. And yet, the passage remained open. For anyone who might arrive. For anyone who might pause. For anyone who might listen. Snow fell. Silence answered. And somewhere between them, the world rested. The gentle steam of a hot spring bath. Prologue: the gentle steam of a hot spring bath. Steam rose slowly. It did not rush upward, nor did it disperse quickly. It lifted itself from the surface of the water in soft, curling strands, as if the bath itself were breathing. The air above the hot spring shimmered faintly, blurring the edges of stone and wood, turning solid shapes into something closer to memory. Night had already settled over the mountains. Snow lay thick along the ground, absorbing sound with practiced patience. The forest beyond the bath stood still, branches heavy, dark, and quiet. No wind moved through the trees. No animals stirred. Even the sky felt hushed, its stars hidden behind slow-moving clouds. The hot spring rested in an open-air enclosure. Natural stone formed the pool, its edges worn smooth by countless seasons of water and time. The water itself was clear, gently rippling, reflecting nothing but steam and darkness. A faint mineral scent rose with the warmth, grounding and familiar. The steam carried more than heat. It carried release. Here, effort thinned, thoughts loosened. The boundary between body and night softened, as if the world itself were inviting rest. The bath waited, patient, unconcerned, certain that someone would arrive. Chapter 1: Arrival without hurry. He arrived after sunset. The path to the inn was narrow, lined with snowbanks that glowed faintly under lantern light. His footsteps were the only sound, muted by the snow, each one deliberate but unhurried. The long journey had settled into his body not as fatigue alone, but as a quiet heaviness that asked for warmth. The inn stood at the edge of the mountain road. Its wooden structure leaned gently into the slope, windows glowing softly from within. Steam escaped from vents along the roof, rising into the night like slow signals. Somewhere inside, water flowed continuously, unseen yet constant. He slid the door open and stepped inside. Warmth wrapped around him immediately. It was not overwhelming. It did not demand relief. It simply acknowledged his presence, meeting the cold he carried and easing it without ceremony. The scent of wood, tatami, and distant minerals filled the air. There was no rush to greet him. No voice called out. The inn seemed to understand that arrival itself was enough. He removed his coat and boots, setting them aside neatly. The simple act felt grounding, as though he were placing the weight of travel down piece by piece. His shoulders lowered without instruction. His breathing slowed. A corridor led deeper into the building. Paper lanterns cast a warm, steady glow along the walls. Shadows moved gently with his passing, stretching and settling again. The floor creaked softly beneath his steps, a sound that felt companionable rather than intrusive. At the end of the corridor, a small wooden sign indicated the bath. Steam drifted from beyond the door, slipping into the hallway, carrying warmth with it. He paused there, hand resting lightly on the doorframe. For a moment, he did nothing. The world narrowed to sensation, the warmth on his skin, the quiet in his chest, the distant sound of water meeting stone. The journey that had brought him here already felt far away, as though it belonged to someone else entirely. He stepped inside. The changing room was empty. Clothes were folded. Shelves were bare. Time felt suspended. He undressed slowly, without thought or self-consciousness. Each layer removed felt less like exposure and more like return. When nothing remained between him and the warmth waiting beyond, he wrapped a small towel around his hand and moved toward the bath. The night air met his skin briefly. Cold, clear, awakening. Then he lowered himself into the water. Heat enveloped him immediately. Not sharp, not sudden. It spread outward from his skin, sinking deep into muscle and bone. His breath caught once, then released, lengthening into something slower, heavier. The surface of the water rippled gently, disturbed only by his presence. Steam rose thicker now. It blurred the edge of the pool, softened the outline of the trees, dissolved the distance between sky and stone. He rested his arms along the edge of the bath and closed his eyes. The water held him. The night listened. And somewhere between heat and cold, between steam and snow, his body began to remember how to let go. Chapter 2: Warmth that reaches the bones. The heat moved slowly. It did not rush through him, nor did it overwhelm his senses. Instead, it settled with patience, traveling inward from the surface of his skin toward places that had been holding tension without his noticing. Muscles loosened one by one, releasing their grip with quiet reluctance before finally letting go. He adjusted his position slightly. Water lapped against the stone, sending gentle ripples across the surface. The sound was soft and rhythmic, almost like breathing. Each movement he made was answered by the bath, not in resistance, but in accommodation. Steam gathered around his shoulders. It rose in slow spirals, obscuring the night beyond the pool. The trees became shadows. The sky dissolved into a pale, shifting veil. The world reduced itself willingly, narrowing to warmth, water, and breath. His breathing deepened. Inhale, exhale. The steam seemed to follow the same rhythm, thickening and thinning in time with his lungs. The alignment felt natural, as though the bath itself were listening. Thoughts drifted in, then out. They arrived without urgency, without sharp edges. Images of the journey that had brought him here surfaced briefly, the train slowing at a mountain station. The road winding upward, snow gathering silently along the path. None of it asked for reflection. None of it demanded explanation. The water held him steadily. Beneath the surface, his feet rested against smooth stone. The sensation anchored him, reminding him of his body's weight even as the water lifted some of it away. He felt both supported and free, suspended between effort and rest. A faint sound reached him. Water flows somewhere beyond the bath, perhaps from a pipe or a hidden channel. It moved continuously, unbroken, feeding the spring without pause. The sound blended with the night, neither foreground nor background. His shoulders sank lower. The line of water rose to meet his collarbone. Heat spread upward along his neck, softening the tension that had settled there over days, perhaps weeks. He tilted his head back slightly, exposing his throat to the cool night air. The contrast sharpened his awareness. Warm, cool, steam, snow. Each sensation existed fully, without competing for attention. He became aware of time only as a gentle stretching. Moments elongated, then dissolved. The idea of before and after lost clarity. There was only now, unfolding slowly, without direction. The steam thickened briefly, then thinned again. Through it, he caught a glimpse of the forest. Snow rested on branches like held breath. Somewhere, far off, a piece of snow slid free and fell, the sound too soft to reach him. He closed his eyes again. The darkness behind his eyelids felt expansive, not empty. It held the warmth, the water, the night, all suspended together. His thoughts slowed further, drifting without forming words. He was no longer aware of why he had come. The reason had dissolved into sensation. And that felt enough. The bath continued to breathe. Steam rose. Water moved. Night remained. And within the gentle embrace of heat and quiet, his body sank deeper into rest, guided by nothing more than the steady permission to be held. Chapter 3: Steam and Drifting Memories. The steam shifted. It moved not with intention, but with subtle changes in air and warmth, curling and thinning in patterns that never repeated. As it drifted, it carried his awareness with it, lifting his attention away from the edges of thought and into something softer. His eyes remained closed. Behind them, images surfaced not sharply, not insistently. They appeared the way reflections appear on water, briefly catching the light before dissolving again. A memory of another bath. Another winter. Another night. He could not place it in time. There had been snow then, too. He remembered the quiet shock of heat against cold skin. The way breath had left his body all at once before returning more slowly. He remembered sitting still, listening to water, feeling something heavy unwind. The memory did not belong entirely to him. Or perhaps it belonged to many versions of him, layered gently atop one another. Each visit to warmth, each moment of rest, resting together without distinction. The water around him pulsed faintly. Not a movement, but a sensation, heat circulating, flowing upward from hidden depths. The spring had been warming the mountain long before he arrived, and it would continue long after he left. The thought brought no smallness, no insignificance. Only relief. He adjusted his arms along the stone edge again. The surface was smooth, shaped by years of touch and water. His fingers traced its contour idly, following a curve that felt inevitable, as though the stone had always known the shape of his hand. Steam brushed against his face. It carried the mineral scent more clearly now, earthy, faintly metallic, grounding. Each inhale felt deeper, slower, filling spaces that had felt closed for a long time. His thoughts grew heavier, not dense, not burdensome, heavy in the way a blanket settles after being lifted, weight that comforts rather than confines. He became aware of his heartbeat. It was steady, unremarkable. The sound of it blended with the water, with the distant flow feeding the spring. For a while, he could not tell where one rhythm ended and another began. Time loosened further. The idea of staying, of leaving, of how long one should remain in the bath, all of it felt irrelevant. The bath did not measure. The night did not count. Steam rose, condensed, fell back as droplets, a cycle without urgency. A new image surfaced. He was walking along a river bank, stones visible beneath clear water. Steam rose there too, where warm water met cold air. The river did not stop to explain itself. It simply flowed, carrying warmth and cold together without conflict. The image faded. His body sank a little deeper. Water reached just below his chin now. He adjusted his posture so the towel rested lightly against his shoulder, its texture soft and barely noticeable. His muscles felt pliable, as though they had forgotten the need to hold shape. The boundary between sensation and thought blurred. Warmth became color. Steam became movement. Breath became space. He drifted, not asleep, not awake, balanced somewhere between. The bath continued to hold him without expectation. Steam continued to rise without a pattern. Snow continued to fall beyond the pool, unnoticed, unquestioned. And within that gentle convergence of heat and quiet, memory softened into feeling, feeling softened into rest, and rest spread outward until there was nothing left to do but remain. Chapter 4 Floating on Warm Silence. The world grew softer. Not blurred, but gentler at the edges, as if sharpness had quietly agreed to step aside. The steam thickened, wrapping around him in layers that felt almost tangible. Each breath passed through warmth before reaching him, arriving already calm. He shifted slightly, and the water answered. A slow ripple moved outward, touching the stone, returning without sound. The surface settled again, smooth and unbroken, as though the movement had never occurred. His body felt lighter, not weightless, but less defined. The water supported him evenly, easing pressure from joints and spine. Muscles that had long forgotten how to rest seemed to remember now, releasing their hold without instruction. His head leaned back. Cool night air brushed his cheeks and forehead, a gentle contrast to the heat surrounding the rest of him. The sensation sharpened his awareness briefly, then faded into balance. He was aware of being held, not only by the water, but by the moment itself. Nothing pressed forward, nothing pulled away. The sound of water flowing somewhere beyond the bath continued, steady and low. It felt like a distant companion, keeping watch without needing attention. Snow fell beyond the steam, unseen but present, adding its own quiet layer to the night. His thoughts thinned further. Words lost their edges. Images lost their outlines. What remained was sensation pure, unlabeled, unhurried. Warmth pulsed slowly, as if the bath were breathing with him. Each inhale deepened the heat's reach. Each exhale allowed it to settle further, sinking into bone and marrow. He felt a familiar drifting return. The state just before sleep, where the body relaxes fully, but the mind still hovers nearby. Where awareness floats without needing direction. He did not resist it. There was no need to stay awake. No need to fall asleep. Either would be acceptable. Steam brushed his eyelids. Moisture gathered at the corners of his lashes, then slid away unnoticed. His breathing grew even slower now, pauses lengthening gently between each breath. Time lost its shape entirely. There was no sense of how long he had been there, nor how long he would remain. The bath did not ask. The night did not remind him. In this floating quiet, a realization surfaced not as thought, but as certainty. Rest did not need to be earned. It could simply be received. The certainty settled into him, warm and complete. The bath continued to cradle him. Steam continued to rise. Silence continued to deepen. And as he floated there, suspended between heat and air, between awareness and sleep, the world held him without question. allowing him to drift exactly as far as he needed. Chapter 5: Lingering Warmth. He became aware that the water was cooling slightly. Not enough to cause discomfort. Just enough to be noticed, like the first hint of evening after a long afternoon. The change brought him gently back toward the surface of awareness, without breaking the quiet that held him. Steam still rose, but more slowly now. The night air pressed closer to the bath, cool and patient. Snow continued to fall beyond the stone edge, collecting on wood and earth, preparing the world for rest. He shifted, testing the weight of his body again. Muscles responded willingly, no longer tight, no longer resistant. The heaviness he felt now was the pleasant kind, the weight that follows release, the sense of having been held long enough. He rested his hands on the edge of the bath. The stone felt warmer than before, having absorbed heat over time. His palms lingered there, absorbing that warmth in return, as though completing a quiet exchange. For a while, he did nothing. The bath did not urge him to move. The night did not hurry him. Eventually, he knew it was time. Not because of a clock or a rule, but because the moment felt complete. Like a sentence that had reached its natural end without needing punctuation. He lifted himself slowly from the water. Heat clung to his skin, steam rising instantly to meet it. The night air felt sharper now, but not unpleasant. It awakened his senses gently, reminding him of edges and shape. Water slid from his body in thin streams, returning to the bath without sound. He wrapped the towel around his shoulders and stood for a moment, letting the contrast settle. Warmth pulsed beneath his skin, deep and steady, refusing to fade quickly. The bath behind him breathed on. Steam continued to rise. Water continued to flow. He stepped away, each movement unhurried. As he crossed the stone floor, his feet felt grounded, connected. The world seemed solid again, but not heavy. Just present. He paused at the edge of the enclosure and looked back once. The surface of the bath was smooth again, unmarked by his presence. Steam softened its edges, already erasing the memory of movement. And yet, the warmth remained with him. It had moved inward now, settling beneath skin and muscle, becoming something he would carry long after the steam dispersed. He slid the door closed quietly behind him. Inside, the changing room welcomed him with stillness. He dressed slowly, each layer settling easily over his relaxed body. The weight of clothing felt different now, lighter, less insistent. When he stepped back into the corridor, the air felt calm. Lantern light glowed softly along the walls. The inn rested around him, holding its own quiet rhythm. The bath was behind him, but its warmth walked with him. Chapter 6: A body ready for sleep. The corridor felt warmer now. Not because the air had changed, but because he had. Heat lingered beneath his skin, radiating outward in a slow, steady way. Each step carried that warmth with it, a quiet reminder of the water he had left behind. He returned to his room. The door slid open without sound, revealing a space prepared for rest. Tatami mats lay smooth and clean, their faint scent grounding and familiar. The futon had already been laid out, its simple lines inviting without insistence. He moved calmly. There was no lingering chill, no rush to seek blankets. His body felt balanced, warm at the core, cool at the edges. The kind of balance that asks only to be allowed. He sat briefly, then lay down. The futon received him gently, yielding just enough to support without swallowing him. As his weight settled, he became aware of how completely his body had released. There was no need to adjust, no need to search for comfort. It was already there. Outside, snow continued to fall. He could hear it faintly now, not as individual sounds, but as a soft presence brushing the roof, the garden stones, the wooden railings beyond the window. Each flake arrived, rested, and disappeared, contributing to a silence that felt full rather than empty. He drew the blanket over himself. It was light, yet sufficient. Warmth rose to meet it from below, the bath's lingering gift completing the circle. His breath slowed naturally, guided by the quiet around him. In the dim light, shadows barely shifted. Nothing moved that did not need to. His thoughts began to drift again. Not toward memory this time, but toward stillness. The gentle kind that comes when the body has been listened to, when it has been allowed to release its weight without explanation. He noticed the rhythm of his breathing. In, out. Each breath felt complete, needing no extension. The space between breaths widened slightly, opening into something calm and expansive. He felt no urge to review the day. The journey, the bath, the night, all of it had already settled where it belonged. Outside, steam from the hot spring rose into the cold night, invisible now from this distance, but still present. The water continued to flow, uninterrupted, warming stone and air alike. Inside, his body mirrored that quiet continuity. Warmth circulated, breath moved, awareness softened. Sleep approached without announcement. It did not pull. It did not push. It simply arrived, like steam rising naturally from still water. And as his eyes closed, the last thing he felt was not the edge of sleep, but the steady comfort of having been held by warmth, by silence, by a night that asked nothing more of him. Chapter 7 Steam drifting into dreams. Sleep did not arrive all at once. It unfolded slowly, like warmth spreading through water, like steam rising without effort. His awareness thinned gradually, edges softening, thoughts losing their shape before dissolving entirely. The room breathed quietly around him. Wood settled. Tatami held. Blankets rested. Nothing shifted sharply enough to call him back. His breathing deepened further. Inhale. Exhale. The space between breaths grew longer, rounder, like a pause meant to be inhabited rather than crossed. Images surfaced faintly. Not memories exactly, but impressions, steam curling upward, water shimmering in low light, snow falling beyond stone. These images floated without sequence, drifting in and out like reflections seen through closed eyes. He did not follow them. They passed on their own. Warmth continued to circulate beneath his skin, slow and steady. The heat from the bath had become something internal now, no longer tied to water or stone. It felt like a quiet ember, glowing without flame. Outside, the night deepened. Snow fell more steadily, smoothing the garden paths, softening the shapes of trees and lanterns. The world prepared itself for the morning without hurry. Inside, he rested. The boundary between body and bed blurred slightly. He could no longer tell where his weight ended and the futon began. The distinction no longer mattered. Thoughts ceased forming. What remained was awareness without focus, a gentle presence, unanchored, drifting. The kind of awareness that belongs to dreams before they become stories. Somewhere far below that drifting, his body continued its simple work. Breathing, warming, letting go. The steam from the bath rose and vanished into the night sky. Snowflakes settled, then disappeared. Nothing insisted on being remembered. Sleep held him fully now. Not tightly, not deeply, but completely. And within that complete rest, there was no beginning, no end, only the quiet continuation of warmth, carried forward into dreams that required no meaning to be kind. Chapter 8 Warmth that remains. Morning did not announce itself. There was no sudden light, no clear boundary between night and day. The world shifted quietly, as if turning in its sleep. Snow rested where it had fallen, unbroken and complete, holding the night gently in place. He remained asleep, not deeply, not lightly, comfortably. His breathing continued its slow rhythm, guided by warmth that had not yet faded. The ember beneath his skin still glowed, steady and calm, asking nothing of him. Dreams moved through him without shape. There were no stories, no scenes to follow. Only sensations: soft heat, drifting steam, the feeling of being held by something patient and kind. These sensations rose and fell like breath, leaving no trace behind. The room stayed quiet. Wood held its warmth. Tatami rested. Blankets remained still. Outside, the hot spring flowed on. Water emerged from the earth, warmed by depths unseen, carrying heat forward without pause. Steam lifted itself into the pale morning air, dissolving gently, just as it had done through the night. Nothing hurried. Nothing lingered longer than needed. Eventually, awareness returned, not as waking, but as presence. A subtle knowing that the body was safe, that rest had been complete. His breath shifted slightly, then settled again. He did not open his eyes. There was no need. The warmth would remain when he did. The quiet would remain, too. The bath was no longer around him, yet it had not left. It lived now beneath skin and bone, in the way his body rested without tension, in the way silence felt full rather than empty. Outside, the snow began to melt. Not all at once. Not everywhere. Just enough to remind the ground of what comes next. The world continued. And within it, the gentle steam of a hot spring bath lingered, not as memory, not as place, but as a quiet condition of being. Epilogue: the gentle steam of a hot spring bath. Steam rises. Snow falls. Water flows. And somewhere between heat and cold, between night and morning, the body remembers how to rest. Not once. Not briefly. But whenever warmth is allowed to remain. Night rain over a forgotten village. Prologue: the sound that returns. The rain began before anyone noticed it. It did not arrive suddenly, nor did it announce itself with thunder. It came the way memories do, quietly, gently, almost politely. A thin tapping sound formed on the tiled roofs of the village, soft enough to be mistaken for wind at first. Then, slowly, the night accepted it. The village lay deep in the mountains of Japan, far from highways and cities, where phone signals faded and time moved differently. Maps showed it only faintly, if at all. To those who passed nearby, it was simply a dark shape among trees, a place not meant to be entered after sunset. Rainwater traced old paths between houses built of wood and stone. Many of these houses were empty now. Their windows were dark, their doors swollen from years of moisture. Yet the village itself did not feel dead. It fell asleep. The rain seemed to know this. As drops slid from the roof to the ground, they carried with them small sounds, tiny echoes of the past. A bell once rang at dusk. Footsteps on gravel. Laughter from a time when lights burned in every home. Near the center of the village stood a narrow road leading to a small shrine. A single lantern still hung there, its paper faded, its flame trembling. The rain touched it softly, as if greeting an old friend. No one could say when the village had begun to fade. There was no clear ending, no final farewell. People simply left, one by one, until the town was left with its rain, its memories, and its waiting. And tonight, as the rain deepened and the clouds lowered themselves over the mountains, something stirred. Not a person, not an animal, but a presence, a gentle awareness waking just enough to listen. The village remembered, and it wondered who might remember it in return. Chapter 1: The Road Through the Cedars. The road was narrow and damp, winding like a quiet thought through tall cedar trees. A single car moved slowly along it, headlights low, cutting pale shapes through the rain. Inside the car, everything was calm. The engine hummed softly, steady and patient, as if it understood the need for silence. The driver's name was Daniel. He had not planned to be here. Earlier that day, he had left the city behind, telling himself it was just a short trip. He needed air, space, something without screens or noise. His phone had lost signal an hour ago, and instead of feeling anxious, he felt relief. Rain slid across the windshield in long, gentle lines. The wipers moved back and forth in a slow, rhythmic motion, almost like breathing. Daniel followed the road without much thought. He trusted it. Roads like this always seemed to know where they were going. The forest grew thicker. The darkness is deeper. Then, without warning, the trees opened. The village appeared. It was small, quiet, and wrapped in rain. Houses sat close together, their shapes softened by mist. A narrow stream crossed beneath the road, its water whispering secrets to the stones below. Daniel slowed the car. He felt no fear, only curiosity, and a strange sense of familiarity, as if he had dreamed of this place before, long ago. He parked near the edge of the village and turned off the engine. The sudden silence felt full rather than empty. Rain continued to fall, filling the space where the engine's sound had been. Stepping out, Daniel pulled his jacket tighter. The air smelled of wet wood, earth, and something faintly sweet, perhaps old leaves or distant incense. The lights were few. Most houses were dark, but one window glowed softly in the distance. The light did not flicker. It waited. Daniel walked. His footsteps echoed gently on the road, respectful, as if he were walking through a sleeping room. Rain tapped against his shoulders and hair, cool but not uncomfortable. As he passed the houses, he noticed small details. A bicycle leaning against a wall, rusted but upright, a pair of wooden sandals near a doorway, wind chimes hanging still, heavy with water. Nothing here felt abandoned in a lonely way. It felt paused. At the far end of the road, the small shrine stood beneath an ancient tree. The lantern beside it glowed warmly, casting a circle of light onto the wet ground. Daniel stopped there, listening. Rain on leaves, rain on stone, rain on memory. Somewhere within the village, something listened to. And very slowly, the night began to unfold its story. Chapter 2: Houses That Still Breathe. The rain did not hurry. It fell at a steady pace, as if it had all the time it needed. Each drop landed, rested for a moment, and then slipped away. The village seemed to breathe with it slowly, deeply, without effort. Daniel walked past the shrine and back toward the houses. He did not know why he chose one path over another. His feet simply moved, guided by something softer than thought. The road narrowed, turning into a path of worn stones. Water gathered in the spaces between them, reflecting dim shapes of roofs and sky. The houses stood close together here. Their wooden walls were dark with age and rain. Some leaned slightly, like tired shoulders. Others stood straighter, as if still proud of their place. Sliding doors were shut, but not locked. Curtains rested behind windows, thin and pale. Daniel paused in front of one house. It was small, with a low roof and a narrow porch. A single step led up to the door. On the porch sat a flower pot, cracked but carefully placed. Inside it, something green still grew. The house felt aware of him. Not in a watching way. More like a quiet recognition. Daniel placed his hand on the wooden door. The wood was cool and smooth, worn by many hands before his. For a moment, he imagined those hands, young and old, moving in and out of the house, opening the door at dawn, closing it at night. He did not open it. Instead, he stepped back and listened. The rain changed its sound near the houses. It softened, broken by eaves and roofs. Water dripped from corners in slow, steady drops, each one making a small, complete sound. It was then that Daniel noticed something else. A warmth. Not heat, exactly. More like the memory of warmth. The kind left behind after a room has been lived in for many years. After meals, conversations, and quiet evenings. The houses were not empty. They were full of echoes. Daniel continued walking. As he passed each home, small details revealed themselves. A calendar still hanging inside a window, its pages curled. A pair of glasses resting on a table, just visible through the glass. A radio on a shelf, silent but waiting. Time had stopped gently here. Not suddenly. Not by force. It had simply slowed until it became almost still. Rainwater ran along narrow channels beside the path, carrying fallen leaves and tiny petals. Somewhere nearby, a stream answered with a low, constant sound. Daniel felt his breathing slow to match it. In one house, a light turned on. He stopped. The light was soft and yellow, not bright. It did not push back the darkness. It rested within it. The sliding door opened partway. An elderly woman stood inside. Her hair was white and neatly tied back. She wore a simple sweater and moved without hurry. Her face was calm, lined not with worry but with time. She looked at Daniel, not with surprise, with recognition. "You've come a long way," she said gently. Her voice blended with the rain, low and steady. Daniel found that he was not startled. He nodded. "Yes," he said, "I think I have." She stepped aside, opening the door wider. "Please," she said, "come in. The rain will be with us for a while." Daniel stepped inside. The door closed softly behind him. And the house breathed. Chapter 3: The Room Where Time Waits. Inside the house, the rain sounded different. It was still present, but softened by walls and paper screens. Each drop reached the roof, paused, and then faded into a gentle hush. The world outside felt far away, as if wrapped in layers of calm. The room was small and warm. A low table stood at its center. Two cushions rested on the floor, facing each other. A kettle sat near the corner, releasing a thin trail of steam. The air smelled faintly of tea and old wood. Daniel removed his shoes without thinking. The elderly woman noticed and smiled. "Thank you," she said, as if he had remembered something important. She moved slowly, pouring hot water into 2 cups. The sound was soft and steady, like rain finding a stream. She placed 1 cup in front of Daniel, then sat across from him. For a while, neither of them spoke. They did not need to. The room itself seemed to hold the moment, stretching it gently. Shadows moved slightly as the lantern light shifted. Steam rose, curled, and disappeared. Daniel wrapped his hands around the cup. It was warm, not hot, just enough to be felt. He took a slow breath in, then out. His shoulders relaxed. Thoughts that had followed him for weeks began to loosen their grip. "This village," he said quietly. "It feels asleep." The woman nodded. "Yes," she said. "That is a good word for it." She looked toward the window, where rain traced soft lines down the glass. Most places, she continued, are always rushing somewhere. But this one decided to rest. Daniel listened. Her voice was gentle, even without weight. It did not ask for attention. It offered it. "Do people still live here?" Daniel asked. She smiled again. "Some do," she said. "Some never truly left." Daniel did not ask what she meant. The answer did not feel like something that needed words. The kettle made a quiet sound as it settled. The rain deepened slightly, then eased. The house responded with small creaks and sighs, like a body adjusting in sleep. On the wall hung a photograph. Daniel noticed it then. It showed the village many years ago. Lights glowed in every window. Children stood near the road, their faces blurred by age but still bright with motion. The same houses, the same trees, the same rain. "You remember all of this," Daniel said, more as a thought than a question. The woman followed his gaze. "Yes," she said, "and so does the village." She lifted her cup and took a small sip. "When no one remembers a place," she added, "it begins to fade. But when even one person listens, it can breathe again." Daniel felt something settle inside him. Not sadness. Not joy. Something quieter. Something steady. Outside, the rain continued its work, washing time gently along the paths. Inside, the room waited. And Daniel realized he was no longer in a hurry to leave. Chapter 4: The Village After Midnight. Midnight passed without a sound. No bell marked the hour. No voice announced it. Time simply moved forward, quietly, like the rain slipping from leaf to leaf. The village settled. Lights dimmed. Shadows grew softer. Even the wind seemed to slow, careful not to disturb anything that was resting. From above, the village looked like a small gathering of warm breaths among the dark mountains. Roofs shone faintly with water. Paths reflected thin lines of lantern light. The stream continued its low, endless song. The village was aware. It did not think in words, but in feelings and rhythms. It felt the rain, the weight of years, the slow return of attention. It remembered footsteps, and it remembered when those footsteps stopped. Tonight, new footsteps had arrived. Inside the small house, Daniel sat quietly. The elderly woman had finished her tea. She moved to the corner of the room and unfolded a thin futon, placing it neatly on the floor. "You may rest here," she said. "The night is kind." Daniel nodded. He felt no need to question her. The idea of rest felt natural, expected, as if the village itself had prepared the space long ago. He lay down, the futon firm but comfortable beneath him. The ceiling above was low, wooden beams crossing gently, like lines drawn by time. The woman dimmed the lantern. The room softened. Rain became the main sound again. Not loud, not quiet, present. As Daniel's breathing slowed, his thoughts drifted. Memories surfaced and passed without effort. Faces, streets, moments from his life appeared briefly, then faded, like reflections in moving water. Outside, the village watched. It felt the weight of a sleeping body, the return of warmth to one of its rooms. It adjusted itself, wood expanding slightly, walls holding steady. The rain touched everything equally. Leaves, stone, skin, time. In the shrine, the lantern's flame leaned gently, but did not go out. The ancient tree above it held the rain in its branches, releasing it slowly, drop by drop. Somewhere, a bell stirred in memory, but did not ring. The village did not want to wake. It wanted to remember this moment, the sound of rain, the presence of someone listening, the feeling of being seen again. Daniel slept. His breath joined the rhythm of the night. And the village, wrapped in rain and quiet, rested with him. Chapter 5 Dreams Carried by Rain. Daniel dreamed without knowing he was dreaming. There was no clear beginning to it. No sudden change. The rain simply shifted, and the world followed. He walked through the village again, but it was not the village of now. Lights glowed warmly in every house. Doors stood open. The air was filled with soft voices and the scent of cooked rice and wood smoke. Rain still fell, but gently, like a blessing. Children ran along the road, their footsteps light and quick. They did not look at Daniel directly, yet they passed close by, laughing, as if they knew he was there. An older man swept water from a doorway, moving slowly, carefully. A woman adjusted a lantern, lifting it just enough to brighten the path. No one seemed surprised by Daniel's presence. He was part of the scene, woven into it like the rain. The shrine stood at the center, unchanged. The tree above it was younger, its branches lower, leaves fuller. Bells hung near the entrance, moving slightly in the wind. A bell rang. Once. The sound traveled through the village, not loud, but clear. It reached every corner, touching walls, windows, and hearts. Daniel felt it in his chest. The sound did not fade. It stretched, softened, and became rain again. He found himself standing near the stream. The water moved faster here, carrying reflections of lantern light downstream. He knelt and touched the surface. The water was warm. As his fingers moved, images formed faces, moments, days long past. Meals shared, stories told, Evenings just like this one, rain falling, people listening. The village was not showing him history. It was sharing itself. "You're listening," a voice said. Daniel turned. The elderly woman stood nearby, but she looked younger now. Her hair was dark, her posture light. Her eyes held the same calm. "Yes," Daniel said. She smiled. "That's enough," she said. That's all it ever needed. The rain deepened. The dream softened. Lights dimmed, one by one, not from loss, but from rest. Voices grew quiet. Doors closed gently. The village settled back into sleep. Daniel felt himself drifting. The stream's sound became distant. The bell faded into silence. Rain remained. Always rain. And then, slowly, carefully, the dream released him. Chapter 6. Morning without hurry. Morning arrived without sound. There was no alarm, no sudden light. The rain simply grew lighter, thinning into a soft mist that hovered over the village. The sky shifted from deep gray to a pale, gentle blue. Daniel opened his eyes slowly. For a moment, he did not know where he was. The ceiling beams above him felt unfamiliar, yet comforting. The room held its shape around him, quiet and patient. He breathed in. The air was cool and clean. It carried the faint smell of wet earth and tea leaves. Outside, something small moved, a bird, perhaps, but even that sound felt careful, as if it did not wish to disturb the morning. Daniel sat up. The futon was neatly folded beside him now. The lantern had been extinguished. Soft daylight entered through the paper screens, spreading evenly across the floor. The elderly woman was not in the room. There was no sign of her having left in a hurry. No sense of absence. It felt as though she had simply stepped into another part of the morning. Daniel stood and slid the door open. The village lay before him, calm and washed clean. Rain rested on leaves and rooftops, no longer falling, but not yet gone. Mist moved slowly between the houses, touching walls, drifting across paths. The stream ran clear and steady. Daniel stepped outside. The ground was cool beneath his feet. He did not rush to put on his shoes. The moment asked for slowness. As he walked, he noticed changes. A door opened where one had been closed before. Smoke rising thinly from a chimney. A cup placed on a porch, still warm. The village was not fully awake. But it was no longer asleep. Near the shrine, the lantern was unlit, yet the space around it felt bright. The tree above held drops of water that fell now and then, each one complete in itself. Daniel paused. He felt rested, not just from sleep, but from something deeper. A weight he had not noticed before had eased, leaving him lighter, quieter. He understood then. The village had not asked him to stay forever. It had asked him to remember. To carry its sound, its rain, its waiting, back into the world beyond the mountains. Daniel nodded, as if answering a question no one had spoken. The road through the cedars waited. And when he began to walk toward it, the village watched, calm and content, knowing it was not forgotten. Chapter 7 The Road That Remembers. The road through the cedars was quiet. Mist lingered between the trees, softening their tall shapes. Water rested on needles and branches, releasing itself slowly, drop by drop. The air felt freshly made, as if the night had carefully cleaned everything. Daniel walked without hurry. Each step felt light, unforced. Gravel shifted gently beneath his shoes, making small, polite sounds. The village remained behind him, but not distant. He could feel it, settled comfortably in its place. The road curved, just as it had the night before. But it felt different now. Not leading him somewhere unknown, but guiding him forward with familiarity. Like a path walked many times in thought, even if not in memory. Daniel reached his car. It stood exactly where he had left it, untouched, quiet. Rain beaded on its surface, reflecting the pale morning sky. Before getting in, he paused. He turned back toward the village. From here, it was partly hidden by trees and mist. Roof lines appeared and disappeared. Paths blended into shadow. Yet he knew it was watching not with eyes, but with attention. "Thank you," he said softly. The sound was small, but complete. The cedars held it. The mist accepted it. The village heard it. Daniel opened the car door and sat inside. The seat was cool at first, then warmed. He started the engine. Its sound felt out of place for a moment. Then the road accepted it too. As the car moved forward, the village faded from view. Trees closed in. The mist thickened, then thinned. But something remained. The rhythm of rain. Even now, though the sky was clearing, Daniel could feel it steady, gentle, always present. Not falling from clouds anymore, but moving inside him, slow and calm. He knew that when nights grew loud again, when screens and voices pressed too close, he would remember this place. A village that waited, a night that listened, a rain that returned. The road carried him on. And behind him, in the mountains of Japan, the village rested once more, quiet, patient, and remembered. Chapter 8 Days That Do Not Ask to Be Counted. Time returned to the village differently. It did not bring dates or numbers. It brought light and shadow, warmth and coolness. The village accepted these changes without comment, just as it accepted rain. Days passed. Or perhaps they unfolded. Morning mist lifted slowly from the ground. Sunlight reached the roofs and lingered, warming wet wood until it released a soft, clean scent. Birds moved between trees, their calls gentle and brief. The houses remained mostly quiet. Yet now and then, a door opened. Not fully. Just enough to let air move through. In one home, a window was raised an inch. In another, a cloth was placed outside to dry. These actions were small, almost invisible, but the village felt them. It adjusted its posture. The stream carried leaves downstream, each one turning once or twice before drifting out of sight. The water did not rush. It knew where it was going. At the shrine, someone swept the ground. The broom moved slowly, carefully, never scraping too hard. Leaves gathered, then were placed neatly aside. The ancient tree above watched, releasing a few drops of water in approval. No one asked who had done the sweeping. The ground was simply clean. When evening came, the air cooled. Shadows grew longer. A single lantern lit near the center of the village, not to guide anyone, but to mark presence. The rain did not fall that night. But the village felt it anyway. Chapter 9. The houses listen at night. Night returned, calm and familiar. Without rain, the darkness felt deeper, but not heavier. Stars appeared in small patches between clouds, faint but steady. The houses listened. They listened for footsteps, for voices, for the quiet signals that meant someone was near. Most nights, there were none. And that was fine. The houses had learned patience. Inside one, the kettle was warmed, then left to cool. In another, cushions were arranged and rearranged, as if remembering the shape of past conversations. The walls held warmth from the day. They released it slowly, carefully, so the night would not feel empty. Sometimes, a sound moved through the village. A branch settling, a stone shifting, a breath that might have been wind. The houses accepted these sounds and returned to listening. They were not waiting for crowds. They were waiting for awareness. And somewhere beyond the mountains, someone remembered. That was enough. Chapter 10. When someone thinks of the village, memory traveled easily. It did not need roads or maps. It moved when someone paused. When someone listened to the rain a little longer than usual. When someone noticed the sound of water against glass, or the smell of wet wood after a storm. In those moments, the village stirred. Not awake, just aware. A roof adjusted itself. A door rested more easily in its frame. The stream felt a little warmer. The village did not know names. It did not need to. It received attention in any form. A thought, a feeling, a quiet breath. When memory arrived, the village answered with calm, with stillness, with rest. Chapter 11. The rain that falls inside. The rain began without clouds. There was no change in the sky, no darkening, no wind, and yet the sound appeared soft, even steady. It did not fall on roofs. It fell into memory. Inside the village, the houses felt it first. Wood remembered the touch of water. Stone recalled its weight. Paths felt the familiar cooling of their surface. Nothing moved. Nothing needed to. The rain was already where it belonged. Inside one house, a cup rested on a table. Inside another, a cushion held the shape of someone who had once sat there. Inside the shrine, the air felt full, though nothing was visible. The rain touched all of it. Slowly, without direction. The village did not ask where the rain came from. It accepted it. Inside the forest, the cedars stood tall and still. Their needles did not shake. They listened inward, toward roots and earth. Inside the stream, water continued its gentle motion, carrying sound more than matter. Inside the night, time softened. Minutes loosened. Seconds stretched until they were no longer separate things. Somewhere far away, a person lay awake, listening. They did not know why the rain sounded familiar. They did not need to. The village listened back. Chapter 12. Sleep moves through the streets. Sleep traveled like fog. It entered the village slowly, filling spaces without effort. It moved through open doors, beneath eaves, along paths where rain once flowed. It settled in corners, on steps, on window frames. Wherever it touched, the village grew quieter. Not silent, just deeply at ease. The houses welcomed it. They had been built for this, holding warmth, releasing worry, keeping the world gentle. In one room, a dream passed by without stopping. In another, breath slowed and deepened, then found its rhythm. The lantern near the shrine glowed faintly, then dimmed, then glowed again. Not from flame, but from attention. Sleep touched the ancient tree. Its roots felt heavy, content. Its branches rested, knowing they would hold the sky again when needed. No one watched. Nothing judged. Sleep simply moved, and the village moved with it. Chapter 13. The long pause between sounds. There is a moment in the night when even sound rests. It exists between breaths, between thoughts, between one drop of rain and the next. The village knew this moment well. It stretched it, held it, let it become wide and comfortable. In that pause, nothing was missing. No footsteps were expected. No voices were needed. The pause was complete. If someone listened closely, they might hear their own heartbeat slow, matching the village's pace. But even that was optional. The pause did not demand attention. It offered rest. Chapter 14. The village breathes you. You do not enter the village. The village welcomes you. It does not ask permission. It does not need to. It arrives the way calm arrives, slowly, quietly, without edges. Breathing becomes easier. Not deeper. Just easier. The village matches it. Wood expands, then rests. Stone holds, then releases. Paths feel your weight, then let it go. You are not walking. You are being held. Somewhere, rain exists. Somewhere else, it does not. The difference no longer matters. The sound is the same. A soft presence. A steady reassurance that nothing is required. The houses are not around you. They are within the same space. So is the shrine. So is the tree. So is the road. Everything shares one breath. In this place, time does not move forward. It spreads out, like mist, like warmth, like rest. Chapter 15. Nothing needs to happen. There is nothing to wait for. No door to open. No story to finish. The village knows this. That is why it remains. That is why it rests. That is why it listens without expectation. Rain may come, or it may not. Both are acceptable. The night may deepen, or it may soften into morning. Both are acceptable. Nothing needs to happen for this moment to be complete. The village is complete, and so are you. Chapter 16. The sound that stays. Long after words fade, a sound remains. Not loud, not clear, just present. It is the sound of water touching something that remembers being water. It is the sound of wood knowing it will be warm again. It is the sound of a place that does not disappear when you stop looking. The village holds this sound. Gently, patiently. It does not send it away. It lets it stay. Chapter 17. The night without edges. The night has no corners here. It does not begin. It does not end. It simply is. Darkness rests gently on rooftops and trees, not heavy, not thin. Just enough. Just right. The village does not need to see clearly. It already knows where everything is. Paths do not separate places. They connect quiet to quiet. The stream does not reflect the sky. It reflects stillness. Somewhere, a drop of water falls from a leaf. It lands. It disappears. Nothing changes. And yet, everything continues. Chapter 18. The rain after sleep. Sleep has passed through. It has left warmth behind. The rain returns, lightly this time. Not enough to wake anyone. Only enough to remind the earth of itself. Roofs accept it. Soil opens to it. The village shifts, just a little, like someone adjusting a blanket in the dark. No one watches the rain. No one needs to. The sound is enough. Chapter 19. When the village is a thought. The village becomes smaller. Not farther away. Just quieter. It fits easily inside a single thought. Inside a single pause between breaths. You do not picture it clearly anymore. And that is fine. It does not require shape. Only presence. Only the idea of rain. Only the feeling of having once rested somewhere that did not ask anything of you. The village is there. Because you remember how it felt. Chapter 20. The long, gentle continuing. There is no final chapter. Only continuation. Rain that sometimes falls. Silence that sometimes listens. A village that sometimes rests. And sometimes breathes with you. Nothing is lost. Nothing is finished. The sound remains. Soft. Steady. Enough. Final chapter. The village at rest. The village does not say goodbye. It does not need to. It simply settles. Rain becomes memory. Memory becomes warmth. Warmth becomes rest. The houses hold their shapes without effort. The paths remain, even when no one walks them. The shrine stands. The tree breathes. The stream continues its quiet knowing. Nothing waits. Nothing is left unfinished. If one night you hear rain and feel calm without knowing why, the village will be there. Not calling. Not asking. Only resting, the same way it always has. And if you never think of it again, that is also fine. The village does not fade. It rests. Just as this story now rests.